Hey everybody, so welcome to another video on the Mustang. We're going to keep working on the rewiring now. So what the next step is, now that I got most of the stuff done under the dash, is to go ahead and try to work in the engine compartment. So I'm going to start first by seeing what's already there, because I haven't taken any of that wiring off. The original wiring is still there. So I want to make sure I know what's there, where it goes, how it runs. First, and then we can look at running the new harness and that kind of thing. So that's where we're going to start here next. So let's go ahead and start looking under the hood and seeing what we got. Okay, so we're going to take a dive here up under the hood, take a look at what we've got. So this hole back up here is where the harness comes into the passenger area. So it comes out there. Now I have pulled that much of the harness out, and you can see it right, oops, I get focus right here. Okay, so, whoops, I get down and follow it. So all of this mess here was inside the car originally, and then the grommet that you can see right there is what sealed that hole up right there. So if we follow that, I don't want to get it confused, so let's see if I can get it, because we have also this tube thing here that actually is part of the wiper squirters, right? So that's a separate thing, so we don't want to confuse it with that. So okay, let's continue to trace out this harness. So we got it, loops around, follows here, comes up to the shock tower, get past the brace, continues to follow up with the squirter, because right here, this top one here is the actual wire, the bottom one is the tube that goes with the squirter. So we're going to follow it around. Then this switches places, so the squirter tube is on top right here, and then we follow it on down. Let's see here if I can back it out some more. And the tube runs up here, and then this goes up into, there's a hole in the radiator support, and also some stuff splits off here to this box, which is the voltage regulator. Now, as I understand it, because the new alternator I'm putting in here has an embedded, attached, or whatever you want to say, voltage regulator, I don't think I'm going to need to use this box. So I think we're going to have to do some different running of the wiring with that. Because, as I understand it, we've got to run some wires across the firewall around over, whoops, get my fingers out of the way, to the battery, and where the solenoid is, which we will use, there's going to be another part that mounts somewhere over there that is a relay, circuit breaker, or whatever, that connects directly from the alternator to the relay to the solenoid. And the solenoid goes to the starter. It also connects into the main wiring harness. The other thing we've got to figure out under here is this. Where is that going? Just ground. Yep. Okay, so this is the harness that runs up, oops, back up some, to the turn signal indicators that are an option on this car, on the hood. And you can see they pass through, and I don't think, I could be wrong, this has that in the harness. I'll have to see. But it's got two grounds. We have the ground that grounds the hood. Well, see, it's one ground, but it's the ground that grounds the hood to the chassis. That's this. And then we have the actual power connector, which is here. So that's got to figure that out. And like I said, I think we're going to end up having to run the wire along the back over there. Pardon me. And then come up over here, and then all of this mess that's down here, it goes to the alternator and up to the solenoid up here is going to get replaced. Okay. I think we can still use the same block ground for the alternator that we were using before. On that, also looped into here, I think. Yep. So you follow up here. See if I can shine down into there a little bit. That's good. If you can see that wire. So that's the front lighting wire harness, which also has to be replaced, which is included in the kit. So that's what goes and feeds your headlights, your fog lights if you have them, as well as your front turn signals. And if you're on a 68 and you have the side marker lights, it would also feed it as well. This 67 doesn't have the side marker lights, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. The other thing we got to worry about is that big gaping hole right there is where the blower motor comes through from the heater box. So we'll have to do that. And then there's another hole next to it, which is part of the wiring for that heater box or heater blower motor. And I don't know if there's other things we got to run through there. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff to figure out. Oh, and there's another harness. I don't know if you can see it down in there. Okay, that goes to, looks like the oil pressure sending unit, which is right there, which I'm still trying to get off. And maybe to the coil. We have coil one side, coil that side, so you're going to have to figure that out because I put that Petronix electronic ignition in there. So anyway. So we got a lot of things here to figure out. So we'll get in, I'll start pulling the stuff out of the box for the American Autowire harness and kind of start laying it out, figure out what I need to do from there. But anyway, got more wiring fun ahead of us. Okay guys, so it's been a couple of days since I shot the first part of this video talking about the rewiring for the engine compartment here. And I've kind of had a different train of thought on how I really want to get going. I've actually already started. So because the whole thing is driven by the alternator and I need to, or replacing the alternator on this car from the 3-wire to the 1-wire, I figured that would actually be the better place to start. So I've gone ahead and pulled out the old alternator. So this was the alternator I had on the car. It's not the original one by any stretch. It's one that I replaced back in the 80s in there. And hopefully you can see why they call it a 3-wire, because there's 3 connections in here that the original style wire harness makes to the alternator. And as I said, this particular model makes about 65 amps, 50 to 65 amps worth of juice, which is plenty to handle the car as it currently is, not a problem. But as I mentioned, I want to start adding things like a nice stereo, air conditioning, chargers for phones, all that, and that starts to add up. So I wanted to get a new alternator, plus the American Autowire system is set up to go with a newer style 1-wire system or alternator. And so I've got that, which I've talked about a little bit. I'll show that to you in just a second. Now, the other difference here is that this is not internally regulated. There's a voltage regulator which is located right up here, and I'll try to get a shot and snip it in. The new one-wire one I have, and apologize for the kids outside. It's a pretty sunny day, so they're out playing because school's out, even virtual school with the COVID stuff, whatnot. Anyway, so the new one is internally regulated, so I don't have to deal with that either. So I've been working on getting that together. Let me show you the new alternator. There we go. So here's the new Powermaster alternator. It is a one-wire system, so you can see it's just got the single connection point here as opposed to the three that were on the other. Now I say that both of these actually also have a ground connection. So on this one, this hole right up here is for a ground connection. So I've got to get that done. I got that. So I guess technically it's two wires. But this one is internally regulated, so I don't need the external voltage regulator anymore. Also, this one does up to, let me see. There we go, get the card. So you can see here, it comes with a card that at idle it does about 105 amps. So easily over twice what the other one does, assuming 50. Cruising around, moving, it does 128 amps, and then if I wide open, it'll do up to 164 amps. Now, the internal voltage regulator is set at 148 amps. So really I should be getting close to about 150 amps out of this, which should be enough to run all of those new things, upgrades I hope to do with the car eventually. It's got the standard V belt for standard things. They do make serpentine ones and all that as well. So I'm getting ready to put this in. And I've already started the process. So what I'm going to do now is show you what I've done to prep for the alternator to go in at this point. Okay? Okay, so now we're switching over to my camera phone because that's the best I can get in here with. So a couple things that I've done. So first off, I've gone ahead and mounted this, which is what they call the mega fuse block. This I mounted here to the shock tower, close to the battery. The battery goes right there. You can see the light, sorry about the glare, is there. Your starter solenoid goes here, so that little piece right there goes right here where those holes are. And then I'm going to have a cable, which is going to run from here. Sorry, let me get this in. From here or here, it doesn't matter which side I come off of, but down here where this bar is, out, and then it's going to tie on to the solenoid here where the battery connects in. So this side over here is where the battery comes into. So that's going to go there. This wire you see hanging off here is going to actually go down here to the alternator. So this is where the one wire is going to plug. Then, let's see. Oh yeah, here's the cable I've got. Let's see, get it in here. That's going to go from here. Oops, get in here. From here over to the solenoid. By the way, the kit, you actually have to make these cables, and they do that because then you can put it where you want to, get the links the way you want them. Gives you a lot more flexibility than using a stock cable. Okay, so then of course the alternator is going to ground to that place right there. That's the block, engine block ground. So that's where the old alternator grounded to, as well as that's where your battery grounds to. So those will ground to the same location. So I'm going ahead and I'm going to go ahead and finish hopefully getting all of this part installed. And then the other part, this post right here, is actually where the harness that comes from inside the car is going to plug into. So that'll provide the connection to the ignition, and then all of the power that goes inside the car, and then also goes to the lights and whatnot. So I'm going to go ahead and get the alternator stuff hooked up. And at some point, all of these other wires that are down here that you can kind of see down in there are going to have to come out, and those go to various things too. So I'm going to go ahead and get this finished up, and then we'll worry about the rest of the harness. Okay, so made some good progress here. Got the alternator in, and got the wires for the alternator and solenoid all hooked up. A couple things I want to mention that I've figured out. First off, the nuts on this mega fuse block here are metric. So while the whole car is standard, these are metric. These happen to be a 14 millimeter nut. So keep that in mind. The other thing I found out is that the the terminators, terminations, connection points, I don't know, whatever you call them, that come in the kit that you put on the wires. The ones that go on here are fine. Perfect fit, everything there. The ones that go on the terminals on the alternator, I have no idea what that means is. Sorry about that. And the solenoid are a little bit too small, so you're going to have to resize them. Not a big deal if you have the right tools. So what I used is my vise, which I talked about in another video. And I had a little rat tail round file. Here, I'll get it for you to show it to you. Right here, it's just a round file, and I was able to put the connector in the vise, hold it, and then just use this to enlarge the hole. And so I got it to fit. So not a big deal. If I had a bigger drill bit, I could have used it, whatnot, but this was easy enough for me. So that's what I did. Okay. So now let's kind of look at the wiring that I've done. I'll get my other camera out for this, right? Okay, so let's get in here and look at the wiring that we've done. So again, from our alternator, right here, right, we've got the power that comes off. So this is where the positive power is going to come up here. It feeds into the mega fuse block, is stated by the American Autowire harness, into here. That then goes through the fuse, right, down to this terminal here, which is then connected via this cable that I made. See, it comes around and then up to this side of the solenoid where the positive battery terminal is. So what this allows is charging of the battery from the alternator, right? Makes sense. And then, of course, then the standard, it goes through, and then this goes to the, this goes here back down to the starter down there, right? So that hasn't changed. And what I've got down here, let's see if I can, you can see I got down here, let's see, is that light? Well, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if I can get this position, but there we go. That's a little better. Okay, so down there you can see that bolt right there going into the block. That's the ground. I've got a black cable because it's a ground that goes up into the back of the alternator right there, and that's a 5/16 8-inch or 18 thread on there, so that just goes into there. And of course the red cable coming off there, because I don't have a black one, I do need to replace it, is the ground or the negative terminal that goes to the battery right there. Okay, so I've also taken off, all of these. Let me get the light back up so it's not blinding us to death. I took off these connectors here, which were originally on the positive side of the battery connection on the solenoid. So these were originally over here on this side. Those came off. I haven't connected. That's part of the old harness that's coming out down there. So there we go. I've got my mega fuse in and set. The only thing I have left to connect to it will be the harness that comes from inside the car to out here, and that will go and end up getting connected right there. Should also say that to keep these from getting obviously grounded out, because there's positive, there's electricity flowing through these, there are covers that come with the kit that go over that, just like you have on a modern car with a fuse box up under the hood. This has covers as well. I just don't have them on right now because I'm still working. So there you go. We've made progress. We've got this part done. So guess we'll go ahead and end it here. I know I talked about doing the original wiring on the car to start with, but or I'm sorry, original, what did I say? Anyway, running the harness from the inside of the car to the outside, to the engine compartment. I'll do that in the next video. This was an important step because this is obviously where the rest of the system's going to get get power from. Connectivity. Lord, it's been a long day, a long week actually. Anyway, not want to get into all that, but so next video we'll start actually running the harness from inside to the outside for the engine bay and get all that figured out, because we've got to also hook up the temperature sensor that goes with it, the oil pressure sensor, figure out how the coil gets connected and all of that good stuff. Now the good thing is, because I already have the Patronics on here, hopefully the coil stuff will be easier. I don't have to deal with a resistor and all that stuff that goes if you keep points. So this works better with electronic ignition. So with that, guys, I appreciate you hanging out with me and going through this process. No, it's not nearly as fast as any of us want it to be. I would certainly like it to be faster, but it's not. It is what it is. A little bit of time. Life gets in the way. You got to do stuff, right? So that, again, thanks. Subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Hit the notification bell if you're new, so you know when we post new videos. Tell your friends about it. We'd like to get, we're at 50-something subscribers now. Like to get 100 subscribers in, a month or two. That would be nice. Eventually, like to get at least 1,000, because that's when you actually start making money on YouTube. You gotta have 1,000 subscribers to make money. And I'd like to have a little extra money to go into this and to buy better cameras and stuff for the channel. So with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks.